What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we are going to be showcasing a really fun and effective Titan build. This is based on the Path of Burning Steps, the brand new exotic leg armor that was added just this season into Destiny 2 with Season of the Splicer, because these things are a lot more powerful than people think. And by the way, guys, I have a ton of different build ideas. If you enjoy this video and want to see more like it, please remember to support it, especially by sharing. If this video does well, I could easily turn it into a series. But moving on, let's take a closer look at the Path of Burning Steps. The exotic perk is Firewalker, to which this build is named. Solar final blows periodically grant you an escalating bonus to weapon damage. You are harder to slow or freeze with stasis, and when you break out, you take no damage from doing so, creating a burst of solar energy around yourself. Now, originally when these came out, the anti-stasis properties gave it a ton of PvP potential, but after stasis has been fairly severely nerfed with the most recent hotfix, now I'm looking to use these in PvE, because that bonus to weapon damage, and remember, it's not a flat bonus, Firewalker scales all the way up from ×1 to ×4, and at ×4 you definitely do more damage than ×1, so giving you that bonus for just getting a solar final blow, especially in PvE, that is so easy to activate, because remember, even though the damage bonus is for weapons, the final blows will count anything solar, so that includes your abilities. Throw a solar grenade and get a kill, and trigger Firewalker. And so, the main weapon we're actually using to make the most of these benefits is the Tarrabah. This thing's been a meme for quite a while, the Tarrabah, but it actually works incredibly with this build. The intrinsic perk is Ravenous Beast. This weapon stores power when dealing or receiving damage, and you hold reload to unleash the beast when full, massively increasing both the damage and the rate of fire. It also has Bottomless Appetite as a unique trait, so dealing continuous damage extends the duration of Ravenous Beast. And you will see this work in the background gameplay. You light up the gun, it starts glowing all the way, you do the reload, and suddenly you shred through ads. And I really do mean shred. The Tarrabah actually has one of the best damage outputs compared to most weapons in the game, actually. Compared to primaries, it blows them away. Like, this might actually be the highest DPS primary in the entire game with Ravenous Beast active. I think it is, actually. Its DPS is so good, even compared to a lot of specials, it will out DPS them. But of course, it's the process of activating Ravenous Beast and making the most of it that is obviously keeping this thing in check. But when you suddenly start to include a damage bonus, things get insane. Because Firewalker is just kind of a native increase to your overall weapon damage, it will actually work and stack upon the damage increase of Ravenous Beast. So you can see right here, 1,126 damage for a normal body shot, I trigger Firewalker, and then I hit for 1,300 or over that much damage. Then, if I actually trigger and activate Ravenous Beast, I hit for 3,200 damage, I activate Firewalker, boom, 3,800 damage, and after activating Firewalker again, I'm hitting for 4,000 damage, and that's actually going to keep escalating. So you've taken, like I said, one of the highest DPSs you can possibly get for any primary in the game, and you've just added quite a bit more damage. But of course, the Tarrabah isn't the only weapon that works with this build. We're going to talk about some really great alternatives later in the video. But of course, we want to trigger Firewalker for the Tarrabah as much as possible, so we're also using the SUNBREAKER subclass, the top tree with thermite grenades, and this means that you can throw a grenade or you can, shoulder charge someone or whatever, get a bunch of Firewalker bonuses, and then go to town with Ravenous Beast. But here is where things get interesting, because we're using a solar weapon and a solar subclass to get as many solar final blows as possible. Why not lean into elemental well mods that also want you to do that? So the first one we have here is Explosive WELLMAKER. where you rapidly defeat combatants with explosive damage, and that's going to spawn a solar elemental well. And remember, picking up an elemental well that matches your element subclass, so a solar well, that's going to give you a recharge to all of your uncharged abilities. It's basically like getting a better Wellspring weapon perk activation. But for even more wells, we're using elemental armaments, so weapon takedowns with a damage type that matches your subclass will produce wells. And then what are we going to do with all these wells? Well, the payoff here is the brand new Well of Life elemental well mod. So picking up a solar elemental well, which we're going to have a ton of, grants increased regeneration for a short period of time. Guys, this is one of the best elemental well mods in the game, and it is a huge payoff for using all of our stuff, because you basically get constant regeneration. You get constant healing for 10 seconds when this is active. It's almost like being inside a healing rift, except all the time when you're jumping through the air, fighting enemies, doing all this stuff. That is a huge increase to your survivability. And to increase your survivability even more, our last two mods are, firstly, we have Elemental Charge, so you become charged with light for picking up a well, which we're going to do literally all the time. And then lastly, we have Protective Light for just, again, one more degree of survivability. I honestly don't think I've died yet using this build. Like, you have a huge degree of survivability. You can go up and start punching bosses and stuff, take a stomp, no problem, especially with Protective Light. Man, it's actually really, really good. So that is the main shell of the build, but some additional stuff. Firstly, for a heavy, something like the Code Duello rocket launcher is fantastic. That's going to trigger the explosive WELLMAKER mod every time you use it, pretty much. And for your primary, you can use something like the brand new ignition code to trigger explosive WELLMAKER even more. But frankly, something just like a powerful, heritage shotgun would be fine as well. You really don't want to be switching off of the Tarrabah too much because you'll lose the Ravenous Beast buff. But if you don't want to use the Tarrabah, just any powerful solar primary would do. Something like the Sunshot would be fantastic for this as well. Actually, a really fun option to use in this build is the Tommy's Matchbook. This exotic auto rifle has the perk ignition trigger, so sustained fire with this weapon overheats it, increasing damage but burning the user. So normally you're putting yourself in a lot of danger. You're dealing a ton of damage, but you're taking damage on yourself. But if you're constantly spawning and grabbing the elemental wells that are healing you, it counteracts ignition trigger a ton. So that is a really fun one to use if you don't want to spend the resources or don't have the Tarrabah. Or even just a legendary solar weapon, and then you could use something like the Lament in the heavy slot, and that thing getting a huge damage buff would be insane DPS, and that provides natural health regeneration as well, so definitely consider using that too. But just using the Tarrabah, it is so much fun, and being a primary weapon, you really aren't running out of ammo very often, if at all, and having that as your DPS dealer is just something new, it's reliable, it's consistent, and it's really, really fun to pull off. And so guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickKakis. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.